Welcome back to Daytime on Rogers TV. Find us at rogerstv.com as well as on Facebook and on Twitter. And happy 2016 Transgender Day of Visibility. The theme of the day has been obviously visibility, but directed towards the greater community. And I think it's all upon us to be more accepting and to try and understand what the trans community is going through. Whether that community is simply your neighborhood or perhaps your church community. Reverend Bruce Lee, pastor at MCC London, joining us now. Bruce, thank you so much for being here. Would you say that is an accurate way for us to look at Transgender Day of Visibility as a community? We simply need to be more accepting.
Absolutely. I think that MCC in particular has always looked at different portions of the communities. And, you know, the fact is, without one, we're always missing something.
Give us a little background on MCC.
MCC started as a denomination back in 1968. And started because there were a number of people who had been rejected from their churches, their mainstream churches. And one person in particular had heard all of the stories that said, you know, God does not love the LGBT community, so you're out. Mm-hmm. And said, that doesn't fit with what I experience in life. So he actually put a notice in the paper and pulled together 12 people who came to worship in his living room. And from that quickly grew a whole denomination that has focused on the LGBTQ plus community and has always been at the forefront of looking at community, spirituality, and Christian social work.
It's interesting too, when we were talking to Christina Lyon, I think there's this misconception, you know, it's like facing a death. The person before the transition is changing, they're disappearing, and there's a new person who's going to be here. And I think a lot of people kind of assume that God can't be a part of that future person. And I think that's a terrible misconception.
Absolutely. The fact is, God knew us before we were ever born, knows us while we're living, and knows afterwards. So any of the changes that happen as we grow and develop, God's with us throughout all of that.
What kinds of things happen within MCC as around days like today, around Transgender Day of Visibility? Is it a special time?
We do focus on different issues and times of the year to celebrate special issues, special people, special parts of the community. There are things that we will do, such as a naming ceremony. So to help to recognize that change in somebody's life, we will have a ceremony that's part of our regular service that recognizes, for those who have been with us always as one name and identifying as one gender, that transition in name and gender to the person that they are now. So we'll look at some special things that we can do.
That's a really important thing, and I hadn't even considered that before, but for all the major events in our lives, we have big ceremonies, mm-hmm. weddings, birthdays, even deaths with funerals. But in a major event like this, up until now, there hadn't really been a major ceremony to honor that major change in your life. That's an important aspect.
Absolutely, capturing and touching on all the milestones in life, being able to recognize those and honor them.
The one thing that has constantly come up with all of our conversations throughout today has been the varied emotions that take place for people who are going through a transition. Does MCC kind of, do you help fill that void and offer, I don't want to say formal counseling, but just a friendly and safe space to be and deal with those emotions?
Absolutely, both from a perspective of individual pastoral counseling, so that's available if people want to come in and to talk with me, then they always have an ear, someone who can just listen to their issues, their concerns. But as a spiritual community, as a faith family, we also try and create that safe place for everybody to be, to worship, to make friends.
How has that spiritual family grown over the even just the last couple of years or decade?
MCC London, I'm pleased to say, has been in place for 35 years. So we've gone through a number of different transitions. It's not always been like any family, one that's without problems or frustrations. But the thing is that we work through those. We keep talking to one another. We keep coming back to worship together. So it has grown, it has changed. I have a picture of what the community looked like back in 1985 on my office wall. And when people come and talk about, oh, I don't like this about the church or that about the church now, I'll pick up this picture and say, what do you see here? And they often will look at that and say, well, the exact opposite of what I'm complaining about. And I'll say, well, how do you think that came about? So you can either be a part of the change and help us to grow, or you can walk away.
And you know what? I think that fits perfectly in with the mission of Transgender Day of Visibility. You know, we see what the problem is today, and we know how we'd like to change it. Are we going to be a part of the problem, or are we going to be a part of the solution?
Exactly.
So what do you think of on Transgender Day of Visibility? What does it mean to you?
I think it's important for us to be aware of all of the different communities within the community. So we often have historically referred to the LGBTQ plus community as one, but the reality is it's not. We need to get beyond saying, oh, look, when I see you, I don't see a gay man, or I don't see a lesbian, I don't see a trans person. We need to see lesbians and gay men and trans people. Because each of us have some special needs, some special aspects within our own segment of the community, and to help to see those differences and the similarities becomes important in then really bonding together.
Well said. Reverend, thank you so much for being here.
My pleasure. Thanks.
Reverend Bruce Lee, pastor at MCC London in Dundas Street Church at 482 Dundas Street. You can visit mcclondon.com or give them a call, 519-645-0744. Coming up on the next Daytime, we will chat with the Canadian Cancer Society. Yes, Daffodil Month is upon us. Plus, it is the 10th anniversary of Fanshaw's Unbound fashion show. This is always such a professional, high-caliber fashion show. We'll also get our final visit from the London Public Library of the week, because it is Friday. Always visiting with the London Public Library. I want to say a big thank you to all of our hard-working volunteers here in the studio, and thanks to you for spending your time with us. Have a great day.